What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back with another video. Being stuck at home in quarantine has made me think about all the great times following Spurs, and what I'm bringing you today is a top 10 games that I've been to following Spurs, and we're going to run through a few special mentions after that as well. But let's get straight into it, and coming in at number 10 is Tottenham 5, Arsenal 1 at White Hart Lane in the League Cup semi-final, just before going on to win the thing actually. And why this was so special was because it was the first time I personally went to see Spurs have a win against Arsenal after so many false dawns, you know, being ahead at half-time. You know, from the year before, we lost at the same stage as we beat them that year, but then the next year we managed to beat them 5-1 and eventually going on to win the thing. And absolute scenes at White Hart Lane that night, as you know, we were only winning 2-0 at half-time and everyone was fearing the worst at half-time because we've had so many false dawns. You know, how many times have we been winning against Arsenal at half-time and eventually went on to draw or lose? But not this time. 2-0 at half-time, 5-1 at full-time, and it was absolutely such an amazing night at White Hart Lane that night. And that move on to number 9, and number 9 coming in 2017, and that is Tottenham beating the European champions in Real Madrid at Wembley Stadium. We beat them 3-1 that night. And I just remember when Eriksen scored, everyone, the whole of Wembley just went completely nuts. And it was like trying so hard to be in the Champions League the year before we went out early. And that year proper solidified our place in the Champions League after beating the European champions. And again, I think that was probably the loudest Wembley has been whilst we were there. Absolutely amazing night. Moving on to number 8, and number 8 is another European night, this time at White Hart Lane, coming in 2010 in our first year ever in the Champions League. This was against the European champions at the time. Jose Mourinho, our current manager, had just won the European Cup with Inter Milan. He'd left at the end of that season. They got Rafa Benitez, and we managed to beat them 3-1 at White Hart Lane, and that was our first year ever in the Champions League. The memorable things that night will be Gareth Bale's amazing runs down that left-hand side, ending Maicon's career in effect. Taxi for Maicon ringing out around that stadium. And that was the first time we probably felt like a big team, you know, after the 90s kind of thing, because it was an absolutely sensational night. Pavlyuchenko getting on the score sheet, Peter Crouch getting on the score sheet, Gareth Bale playing an absolute blinder. And Inter Milan were left in the dust. You know, it was after the game when we lost 4-3 and Gareth Bale scored that hat-trick. Everyone knew at the final whistle that game, we will get them at the Lane and we will beat these European champions. And moving on to number 7, another game from 2018, and this was our first win at Stamford Bridge for 28 years. The game started, obviously, Tottenham go 1-0 down, as we usually do at Stamford Bridge. Everyone's fearing the worst. Christian Eriksen scores a complete banger just before half-time, and everyone's like, oh, okay, what's going to go on here? Then Dele Alli solidifying it in the second half, and the scenes and the pictures of him shushing the Chelsea fans, the crowd absolutely mental, giving it to the Chelsea fans the whole of that second half. I'll play a few clips from the vlog as well that day, but it was absolutely mental. First time winning at Stamford Bridge for 28 years, and that comes in at number 7. And coming in at number 6 is a game from 2010. And this is our first and only ever win at the Emirates. And this came, we were 2-0 down at half-time. Second half, we managed to pull it back to 3-2. This was one of Harry Redknapp's best ever games for Tottenham, that's for sure. Van der Vaart with the penalty. I remember when he steps up, takes the penalty, runs around the goal and gives that to the Arsenal fans. And a great story I've got as well is that, like, I never felt confident going into Arsenal games, and every single time we play Arsenal, I always get it from Arsenal fans on my phone non-stop after the game. So this time I decided to actually leave my phone at home. I went by myself. I drove to the Emirates, and I was running quite late, as I always am, and I found this little car park, and it was basically someone's drive where you can fit about 5 or 6 cars in, but I was the last car in, so I was blocking all the cars, and obviously I was wearing my colours, and get to the game. After the game, obviously celebrating and everything in the stadium for a good while, obviously, because we didn't want to leave after beating Arsenal in that kind of dramatic fashion. Get back to the car park after looking for it for ages as well. Not only were we late out of the stadium, but I genuinely could not remember where I parked the car. Got back to the car park, and there's about 5 or 6 cars there waiting for me to come because they can't get out, all wearing Arsenal shirts. And then I come rolling in with my Spurs shirt with a massive smile, and I say, "Oh, good game, lads," and I get in my car and quickly zipped off. Now that was one of the best days, obviously coming in at number 6. Now, coming in at number 5, it is a trip to the Etihad in the Champions League as well, which was last season. We were winning 1-0 from the first leg after the first Champions League game at the new stadium. Tottenham fans didn't know what to expect going up to the Etihad. Man City were champions-elect. They had won the season before with flying colours, and no one gave Spurs a chance in hell, to be honest, even being 1-0 up. They go 1-0 down really early. Suddenly, Sonny scores. Sonny scores again. We're 2-1 up within 8 to 10 minutes, and suddenly Spurs fans start to believe. This is a really top and tail game. Nobody knew what was happening. At the end of it, Man City win 4-3. Raheem Sterling scores right at the last second of the game, not only for the goal to be ruled out by VAR in one of the most dramatic endings to a Champions League game ever. And I think as it stood, it was probably the best Champions League game probably ever. Definitely that I've seen with my eyes, even on TV or anything, but that was absolutely insane. And when the ref went to VAR, it was absolute mayhem. The feeling from despair to absolute elation was insane, and I can't tell you what scenes it was at the final whistle, celebrating outside the Etihad for at least an hour. Which I'll play some scenes as well from the vlog, but that was absolutely amazing. Coming in at number 4 is another game at the Etihad, and this was our Champions League playoff in 2010. We drove up there really early that day and was drinking all day, to be honest, in a really, really tense game. It was tight throughout the whole game. Tottenham played very, very well, but we just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. It was probably the first time Tottenham had actually pulled up trumps in a game like this, in a league game like this, where we needed to win to solidify something, and actually did it, you know. And then with 10 minutes to go, Yunus Kabul down the right-hand side, the keeper fumbles it and crouches there to send the Spurs fans into delirium. And Tottenham had made the Champions League for the first time. I fell down about 6 rows. I had bruises and cuts all over my body. Celebrating outside the stadium. You know, Man City fans were chucking sticks and bricks and hurling abuse at us, but we didn't care. We stayed there partying for so long, and it was absolute scenes. And coming in at number 3 is the last time, or the only time, that I've ever seen Tottenham lift the trophy, and that was in 2008 as we beat Chelsea at Wembley 2-1. Tottenham go 1-0 down with a Didier Drogba free kick, and everyone's like, oh, here we go again. But Dimitar Berbatov coolly slots a penalty to send us into extra time. And suddenly the cross comes in from Jermaine Genius. Cech goes up, Woodgate goes up. They kind of ricochets of each other, and Woodgate slams home the winner, and Tottenham lift the trophy. Ledley King lifts the trophy. And another story from this one, my grandpa, the lovely man that he is, he gave his ticket before the game to my brother so he can watch the game. So ever since then, Grandpa hasn't seen Tottenham lift the trophy, but luckily for my brother, he has. And this moves us on to number 2, and that is the last game at White Hart Lane. And what an emotional day that was, for different reasons, not really for what was going on the pitch, but just the pure emotions of the day. You know, a place where all of us have grown up going to, watching our whole lives. The first time I went there, I was 6 or 7 years old. And then from my teenage years, I was there every other week pretty much until now, until it closed. So the pure emotions, getting there early, the streets were completely rammed. It was a boiling hot day, so the beers and the ciders were flowing. all the flags inside the stadium, and then after the game, the pitch invasion. That is my one regret, actually, is not getting on that pitch. Just for one reason or another. I was in the upper tier, so it was a bit hard to get down. I was trying, but it just wasn't to be. But that was my one regret of the day. And if there was a day that I could actually relive as a Tottenham fan, I think it would be that day, the last game at White Hart Lane, because that was just history in the making. And now we move on to number one. And at number one is last season's Champions League semi-final in Amsterdam. The best night of my life that night was, you know. No chance in hell after going 1-0 down in the first leg, 2-0 down at half-time, or not, I think in the beginning of the second half, in the second leg. Tottenham needed to find something, and up steps Lucas Moura, who scores a second half hat-trick, and the last goal was absolute scenes. I can't tell you, it was just absolute mayhem. Probably the most nuts I've ever seen everyone go for the goal, and I think that was the biggest moment in my Tottenham supporting lifetime. Absolutely mental. And a few special mentions I'm going to give is in 2006 when we beat Chelsea 2-1 when Lennon and Dawson scored. I think that was the first time we'd beaten Chelsea in my lifetime. Someone comes up to me in the train station after the game on his hands and knees and crying, goes, "Haven't seen us beating Chelsea since I was 5 years old," or something. And it's like, the pure emotions of that day of beating Chelsea, the scenes inside the stadium, the atmosphere was absolutely to die for. And more special mentions: Tottenham 2, Arsenal 0, 2017. Tottenham 5, Chelsea 3 in 2015. You know, that was the first time we all started to believe Pochettino could actually do something as Spurs manager. After that, 2010, Tottenham 2, Arsenal 1, when Danny Rose scored on his Tottenham debut. That was the first time we'd beaten Arsenal in the league since 1999. So that was absolute mayhem as well. In 2009, Tottenham beating Wigan 9-1 in a game where, will you ever see anything like that again? 9 goals, 10 goals in a game. Jermaine Defoe scoring 5, and he could have scored about 7 that game. Aaron Lennon was absolutely on fire that day as well. And the last game I'm going to mention is AC Milan in the San Siro, 1-0. Peter Crouch getting that goal in 2011. We went out to Milan not knowing what to expect, to be honest, because it was our first time in the knockout stages of the Champions League. It was the last kind of 16 of the Champions League. No one knew what to expect. We went out there just to get on the piss and have a good time, walking up that spiral staircase of the San Siro all the way to the top, singing our hearts out. And then Aaron Lennon whips past Yepes, gets a ball into Peter Crouch, and he delivers us home 1-0 from the San Siro. Absolutely epic night that was. But there you have it. That is my best moments following Tottenham Hotspur. All those games will absolutely live in the memories for the rest of my life. Hopefully we can make some more memories over the coming years. Like, subscribe and comment, and tell me what your best nights of supporting Spurs are, the best games that you've been to. And as always, come on you Spurs.